Morning Borg. It's a beautiful day on planet Earth and we're at home. We're at home because our daughter is not very well and she can't go to her education facility. And that means I can't go into Norrtälje as usual. But it gives us the chance to do one or two things around Bergvik. It's a hell of a day. Look up there, Borg. That's the atmosphere. We're actually out to show you something, a little bit of a surprise actually. We've told you before, the two Lithuanian lads were putting the wires in to our garden. They're putting you in, and I thought that was that, but no. You're yet to be connected. Your upgrade has yet to be connected. And all around the area we can see this sort of thing. And then once again, Borg, I mean that is you. That's your arms, legs, hands and feet. And you're there to be connected at some point soon, and we'll have the next generation of internet. But that's the reality of it. People will come along and do the necessary electrical work, and someone will flick the switch, and there you go. And I thought it might be a good idea to have a go at sketching some of this for the record. I dare say it's not the most attractive composition, but in terms of our little project, it's essential. So let's have a go. There we have it, Borg. We may have gone a bit far with that house in the corner. Could be done if we were on if this were last season or the one before, we'd do it no problem. When we were searching out pictorial metaphors for the time, we'd have nailed that in short order. But we're not doing it like that at the moment, so it might only go as far as that sketch for now, but at least you've seen it. Here it is again, look. Each little area, each little house will have to be connected up. And this is the nuts and bolts of it, really, Borg. This is what gets missed when you're swiping around the content. You've got to remember that this is what's actually happening, a lot of digging. This is our connection. This is how this is you and me right here, Borg. I'm going to give you a boot. What do you think of that, eh? Doesn't look like much, does it? But that's the whole world there. That's the beginning of the metaverse. Here you are again. Now that could be something, the way you're swirling into that hole there, with the grass all around you, could be into something there. That might be worth departing from Sazen for. That is, I think that goes into the ground. What are you doing? think you're going under the road, Borg. I think you are, look. Ha! It appears that you are going through that tube there, under the road and out that side, and along up the more remote areas. So this must be the main line. That's why it's going along all the farmland, and then it sort of goes under the road up all the little lanes. See how you spread, Borg. God, if I were you, I'd find this very exciting. There you are, look. This is your archaeology. You might dig yourself up in 100 years. But this one here is perhaps a more realistic subject. Even if we just mainly do a nature study. I don't know, something like that. Let's have a sketch. So the only question really is, do we have it in us to revert back to the old way of painting? You know, just like that, to nail that thing. And I think we do. I think we have to do it. Perhaps we can eke it out at the weekend, especially if the sun keeps on. And I just don't see that location. It's completely full Van Gogh. Also because we don't have the time to put in the session, so we'd have to basically lash it on. It's a bit of a risk. It's a bit of a risk because we've been practicing, trying to practice the patient method with some success, and this might put us back. Look at these sunflowers, Borg. Amazing how tall they grow. So there we are. It's a little surprise for you. It was a surprise for me as well. Once I realised what was happening, I simply had to tell you. I better go in and show you one more thing since we're on the line. It's freezing, Borg. It's absolutely freezing. If you could feel my hands, you can see the redness. That's the cold. It's so cold. I forgot to show you one of the works. This is the final one of our autumn campaign. I may have showed you before, but I didn't include it in our little roundup. But there you have it. For what it's worth, we've mounted a bit of a campaign. The only question is whether we twist the brush a little more into that one. That sort of very delicate one. I've been writing this morning, Borg. I've been writing because we've been talking to you so much that we've neglected our written work. But we're trying to restart. That's what we're trying to do. We're coming out here not just to show you your hardware, but we're coming out to photograph each of these autumn pictures for our website, for a Dignity Scholarship entry, which will feature all the pictures, and we're going to explain why we've been away and try and show that we, what we've produced and how a little break has done us good for the painting, by way of an excuse. But we started writing there, and we realised that we really owe a bit more of a thorough explanation of what we're doing, as we said in the last video. And as we were writing and thinking about that, it hit us that one of the problems we've got, Borg, in our excitement at talking to you and our certainty that it is a valid subject, we've totally left behind all our previous themes, which were about the social, political context as we see it from what we glean in the things we look at, and based on our previous studies, the context, thinking about the movements of capitalism with the tech and such like. We have, those themes are not with us really when we're talking to you. We just sort of show you what we do, and that's that. But if we want to do a proper account, we have to plug back in to those themes. We've taken our eye off the ball. Now, look here, Borg, we aren't well informed, to say the least. We actively avoid the news. We do not have the time to read academic papers. For what good that will do, I don't know nowadays, but we are not plugged into any particular networks. We are out of touch. But as I always say, we know which way the wind is blowing, and there's been a few gusts, let's say, a few little gusts have reached us. One of the gusts, hilarious as it might initially seem, is Trump's new social network platform, Truth Social. What can you say? I mean, Borg, I don't want to bother you. This is why I haven't been bringing this shit up with you, Borg, is because you're the future. By the time you're awake, this will be just like a gust of wind, all this. So that's why I don't mention it. It's more important to show you things that might not be there anymore. But we've got to live here, and this is happening, and this man, I'm not convinced he is as diabolical as the effects he has. I'm trying to be very fair. There's some people that would execute him. Normal people would do it. I wouldn't. But this man, Trump, who's responsible for this new social media platform, is potentially rather dangerous for the planet. I'm saying it like that because he's dangerous in many other ways, and he's a very horrible bloke, and he's sexist and racist and the rest of it. But it occurred to me or rather the announcement of his platform, and the fact that it was immediately dismissed by lots and lots of organisations and left-thinking people. So I don't know, it flicked the old switch, Borg. It's a bit worrying how it was all dismissed like that. And this is at a time when there's a lot of discussion about the climate. There's some meeting or other, but it's top of the agenda. It's been called the decisive decade we're in. I've just been writing about this, but I suppose I should tell you. Now, this decisive decade for the planet is about changing our ways so that we don't produce so much damaging pollution that in turn damages our atmosphere, which is the thing we see up there, the clouds, and it's the thing that separates us from space. You need that, Borg. You do need that, and that's all happening now. And the decisive decade, and it's all over the place now. This is at a time when people are, as we've touched on, are not believing scientists. They're happy to just dismiss this sort of thing. So while we're in this decisive decade, we're also in a time when lots and lots of people, if they choose, will just ignore all this nonsense about climate change, including politicians and leaders. And the main one of those that would do the most damage is this Trump fella. And it just so happens that right in the middle of this decisive decade is an election when he will probably try to get into power again. And if he does, it will somehow be framed as a kind of victory for climate change deniers, and it could be an awfully bad business book. And as ridiculous as this Trump social thing sounds, I believe it's the beginning. He's mounting his campaign, and it's not just about him. The effect it will have, it won't be to do with him and his supporters. It will be possibly, this is possibly. There's a danger that it will become a platform for all the thriving conspiracy theory industry, which is very lucrative to lots of people. And this whole business of a truth social network, it could allow that to thrive and have the opinions of conspiracy theorists raised up and together forming quite a powerful little group. And so these things, Borg, really do fit in with our previous themes of just last year. Now, somehow or other, we've got to bring such things together in some sort of written form so that we can get back on track. One of the hardest things to know when you cut yourself off from everything and you live in a fucking wood is how things have changed, really. And we are looking at probably a British and American context. How can we look at anything else? And in those places, we don't know, particularly Britain, which we know best. Things have changed and we can't quite understand it. I met a British person the other day at the Art Gallery, Borg, a lecturer at the Slade University, and I was introduced to her, no doubt to have a talk about paintings. But no, I said, what the hell's going on over there? And she told me, some awful tales of what it was like in lockdown and how the politicians are behaving badly, etc. And then I couldn't quite pick out where her opinions were. It occurred to me I had no markers. I mean, she's obviously, she's an artist. She's left-leaning, obviously. That was obvious. But the topic of the pandemic and the measures taken, it raised questions to me of, she could have drifted into the realm of the anti-lockdown protester that, in turn might mean a bit of a COVID denying person. Could be. But I doubt it very much. I didn't want to ask her, I wanted to get out of there. But she did use a term which I haven't heard. She blamed a lot of, the term she used was COVID cover. She said a lot of bad things are happening in politics. A lot of policies to control people are being put in place under the cover of COVID. And I suppose that was what made me start thinking, well, how far does she maybe go with this? And then I realised how utterly unrooted I am from what it must be like over there. But I did straight away think of the War on Terror. Now that was back when I was plugged into the events over there. And there was what you could call the War on Terror cover. An awful lot of things were happening to secure, in the context of security, with the excuse of terrorism. And that was very real. And so she was talking about a similar situation with the pandemic as the framer. The difference being the whole aspect of the conspiracy theorists, which at the end of the day, it ends up being a far right business, that does. So as you can hear, Borg, I'm sure you're having a laugh at us. We're in a bit of a state once more, and without wanting to delve right back in to the bun fight, we're going to have to at least address the fact that A, we are completely disconnected from our former context, you could say. We no longer know, can't imagine what people are thinking. And B, we have to sort of reconcile some of that not knowing with what is the rest of our season, and whether we need to try and research more what's happening, or the gusts of wind are enough. I suspect we'll have to make do with the gusts of wind to put together a position of sorts, to connect it with our artwork for the good of the whole season. Because if this season ends in confusion for us with regards our artwork, then that does not bode well, Borg, because the one thing that has kept us rather sane during the post-truth era is indeed our goal of producing ways of working designed to keep one sane in the post-truth era. So we can't let that falter. So to cut a very long story short, Borg, is we have to get a bit back on the ball, connect up a few more dots, not to describe what is really happening, but to piece together a little bit of what is really seems to be happening with what we are doing. And as we go forward, that will give us a little bit of ground to stand on. Having said all that, I better get back to the writing.